Well, hello from Maine. All right, give me just a minute. I am going live on Instagram as well. We are officially in Maine. Hello, hello. All right, good. We're live on Instagram. I am live on YouTube and Facebook. I got my little guy staring at me in the door. Hi, buddy. Hi, buddy. Hello. Okay, we are officially here in Maine. I know the lighting on Facebook and YouTube is like not wonderful. We're actually staying at a like an Airbnb right now that my in-laws so graciously rented. We got here late last night. And so I'm just working with what I have right now in terms of tech, but it is beautiful. It's like late afternoon. We're by the water, which is really, really nice. I actually I like lost my voice this week. Which if you're in my community for any amount of time, for whatever reason, that seems to happen when I'm in a big up level. And we're actually talking today about how do you know if you're in a quantum leap or not? Because I kind of unintentionally got into one over the past couple weeks. So I'll tell you more about that. But for me, one of the indicators is I like get sick and lose my voice. So I haven't been going live or even like recording podcasts for about the past week or so because I literally like was just sick and couldn't talk. But it's coming back to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm going to go live and I want to talk to you tonight about how do you know if you're in a quantum leap or not? What are the signs? What are the indicators? Or are you continuing, like, are you just doing more and more of the same, which means you're going to continue to get more of the same results? And what I care about so much for this community and for my own life too is that we play and live full out to the point where we're able to experience the fullness of who we are, the fullness of what we came here on this planet to create in our lives. And that if you're really doing that, that's going to look like quantum leaps happening. I think not every moment of life is a quantum leap, but I think when we're serious about getting the results we want out of career, business, life, there's going to be consistent moments of quantum leaping. And like I said, I want to share with you a little bit of my story of how I realized I was actually in a quantum leap without intending it the past couple weeks. And then how do you know if you're in one as well? By the way, welcome. Tanya, so good to see you. Cara, so good to see you as well. Let me know, by the way, if you're here live on Facebook or YouTube, pop me a comment. That's how I know you're here. Are you in a quantum leap? Do you feel like you're in a quantum leap right now? Or do you feel like you're like stuck and continuing to get more and more of the same over and over again and you're ready for a quantum leap? I want to know. Also, if you're here live, is my audio okay? Let me know because, like I said, I got like no equipment right now. I'm just working with what I have. But I really wanted to come on and share this with you from the heart today. So, all right. So let's talk. I'm going to share with you a little bit of my own story and experience here recently of being in a quantum leap without intending to be in a quantum leap necessarily. So, all right, where do I begin? If you have been following along on my social for about the past 2 months, then you probably know, or maybe you know, that we've had a lot of like upheaval in our family over the past couple of months. So we've been on this journey of my husband Jason applying for medical school and really wanting that to be his path for the past few years. And actually, I would say like my first true quantum leap experience where I was able to turn annual income into monthly income in 6 weeks was what enabled and empowered him to be able to leave his job to pursue his passion to go to medical school. And that was a really wild moment in our family's lives that happened back in 2021, I want to say. 2021. And achieving that quantum leap allowed him to leave work so that he could pursue his passion of going to medical school. Hey, Chrissy, how are you? So that happened, and then he's been on this path and journey of applying for medical school, but there's been a lot of twists and turns along the way. And applying for medical school in your mid 30s is a very different experience of doing it when you're earlier in life. And so there's been like a lot of learning and growth for us along the way. We thought it was going to happen a year ago. It didn't happen. And we were kind of like, okay, we got to recalibrate and decide what we're going to do. We had sold our home in Georgia in what year was it? Oh my gosh, I'm not usually great. This isn't a limiting belief. It's just like I don't usually remember years that well. So let me like give you the correct information here. We sold our home in Georgia also in 2021 because we thought we were going to have like a year period where we would just go and like travel around and rent before he got into medical school. Sold our home, moved into a city we really love, rented there, thought we were going to move into, thought we were going to go to the city where he'd be going to medical school and we'd buy a new home there. But things didn't go as planned. And we ended up not, he didn't get into school that year. And we found ourselves in a place where we were like, okay, we got to like rent again at this point, rent for another year. And which was okay. It was a little bit inconvenient because I didn't want to be renting for a long time as a young family with a little kid at the time. I really wanted us to be settled and stable, but we decided to rent for one more year, give it another shot, for him to apply for the schools he wanted to go to. His number one school that he wanted to get into was the University of New England. I promise all of this is like coming together into the story of what's going on right now in the quantum leap, but this is just a little bit of a backstory if you're not familiar. He really wanted to go to the University of New England in Maine. It's where he's from. And so we actually, along this journey, we would like come up and visit Maine and look at the campus before he got in. We would spend time. We actually met with a realtor, and we're like, okay, like taking action as if the end result was already done. What would we be doing? We'd be looking for a home. We'd be touring the campus. We'd be spending time on campus. So we've been doing that all along the way. And yet this past year, he had applied again to get into UNE. And in April of this past year, he found out that he was waitlisted. And our lease at the place we'd moved into another spot that was like bigger and better for a family. Our lease was coming up end of May, and he found out he was on the wait list and he wasn't accepted yet. And they said, well, we'll let you know by end of June or mid July at the latest if, if you're in. And I'm actually going to release a podcast episode about this soon because I did this training with my 10K club group, maybe a month and a half ago now, about what happened when I didn't follow my own advice. So in that moment in mid-April when he was waitlisted, our lease was coming up to close at the end of May, but we didn't have any sort of direction or certainty in terms of whether he'd get in or not. I went into some fear and I went into some doubt, and it's like the best and highest version of me would have said in that moment, we know you want to get into UNE. We know that's what we've been declaring. That's the path that we know we're going to take. Let's go ahead and start securing housing up there. Let's get things lined up to move there. I didn't do that though. I got into fear and I was like, I don't feel comfortable moving the whole family up to a state where we don't have any sort of certainty that you're going to get into school this year, which it's like, it's understandable, right? We've got 2 little kids now. Our youngest has just been born in March. My older son, Jack, had also just been accepted at like my top ideal preschool for him in the state that we were in previously in North Carolina, because I'd kind of like lined things up in case Jason didn't get into school this year. And again, like some of this is I didn't follow my own advice with how to create the quantum leap because I had split energy around it, right? And let me know too in the comments if you can relate to this, if you've ever been in a place where you are like, I really want this thing. And if I had full faith, I would take this action, even though it feels uncomfortable and unrealistic and stretchy, and it doesn't make any logical sense. But there's also this part of you that's like clinging to what's known and what's familiar. Oh, Penny, hi, you're here on Facebook. Plan B and C. Exactly. I was doing that. So you heard me give this training because you're in our community, right? And so I was doing that. I was making a plan B and a plan C because I was in fear. And my mama heart was like, I want to make sure that I've got stuff taken care of for my kids just in case, which I get it. I'm not making myself wrong for it. I'm not saying that you're wrong if you've ever made a plan B and a C. But here's what's true is when you're in the energy of making a plan B and a plan C, you're not in the quantum leap. So this is what's really beautiful and what's really interesting about some of the learnings that have unfolded in my life over the past few months and how I've deepened in my awareness of this. So we so I say, no, we're not moving up to New England. We're not moving to Maine without you having a guaranteed acceptance at that school. We find a new place, another place to rent back in North Carolina, sign another lease for a year because I'm like, well, this is it. We're just going to have to reapply for school one more time this year. And the lease at our current place was ending and the owners were moving in. So like there was no way for us to extend for a year. We had been settled in our new place for about 3 weeks when Jason got the call that he'd been taken off the wait list at the University of New England and that he had to be up in 48 hours. And I was like, this is insanity. It was insanity. And it was a very surreal moment. And I went from feeling like everything was settled, like I knew the path for us for the year, I knew what we were going to be doing, to suddenly in 48 hours, my husband is gone because he's got to be up on campus. And I'm now taking care of our 2 little ones who are 3 years old. And he was 4 months at the time, 4 months old on my own, which, by the way, for anyone who is a single parent, like massive shout out to you. It's probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for those of you who have done this before. But I was like, I'm not going to stop my husband from pursuing his dream, and we'll figure it out. And we'll, like, yes, of course you're going to go to school and we're going to figure it out. So he left, and suddenly I'm like, okay, I got to recalibrate and figure out what in the world are we going to do for housing? What in the world are we going to do for school for our little one? And how do I get the family up now? Again, we just got settled in this new place. How do I uproot us and get us settled into a new place? I'm not going to go into all the details tonight on this live of everything that has transpired and happened because it's been a lot. And there have been beautiful like synchronicities and divine interventions, even in terms of the new school spot that opened up for my son Jack to get into, for the moving company that's come in and helped us. Like there's been so much divine intervention. But what I want to speak to specifically tonight is the housing situation and how that manifested, because that is how I am now in my next quantum leap. And I want to share with you some keys from that. So yeah, as I go through this, though, again, if you're joining live, let me know in the comments, like, where do you feel like you are in the quantum leap process? Are you currently in a quantum leap? Have you ever been in a quantum leap? Or are you not even familiar with what I'm talking about? And you're like, this is totally new language to me. So whatever way you cut it, it's fine. I just want to know like what your experience of this is. But let's talk about the house, because this is specifically where the new quantum leap has come in. So when we experience contrast, and for me, contrast it feels really not good to continue to move especially my 3-year-old son from new place to new place to new place and not have that like grounding of a home base for him. And when we found out that we had just got settled into this new home in North Carolina and we were going to have to move again, there was this part of me, my mama heart, that was like, I am not up for renting again. And this is like whatever your living situation is, whatever's most aligned for you, that's what you need to do. And again, we owned for a long time and then we sold everything and we rented for a while just to be able to have more freedom and flexibility. But my mama heart at this point was like, there's no way I'm moving up to Maine and renting again. Not that I wouldn't do it if I had to, but I so craved a stable home base for my son. Luke, I think, would have been fine if we rented for a while because he's 4 months old. He doesn't know what's going on. But for Jack, where he's like had to adjust and shift to new homes a lot over the past few years because of this scenario, I was just like, I don't want to put him through that again. And so I was really, really committed to finding a home to buy. Hey, Allison, I was thinking about you today. It's so good to see you. So I was really committed to finding a home to buy. Now, if you're from like present moment real estate market right now is nuts. Like very limited inventory, very, very limited inventory. Prices are high, not the most ideal time to buy, right? But I've also learned that you're when you are committed to an outcome, it's like the path always unfolds. And I was more committed to finding a stable home base for us than buying at the perfect time. Like I really care more about that. So with that, we found a home with the help of our amazing realtor, Emily Cole. Check her out if you're in the Portland, Maine area. She's wonderful. We found a home. It was like comfortable for me financially. It was still a bigger investment than I'd ever made in a home, by far, but it was comfortable in terms of what was required for the down payment and all of that. We move forward on it, go into I actually never I hadn't seen the home until today in person, which is really interesting. I've never bought a home sight unseen, but I saw it online. I was like, it's beautiful. It's got the right family vibe. I can swing it financially. Let's do it. And it just felt right. I had a knowing, like this is our home. And also when you're in the quantum leap, there's a knowing about it. It's like that end result that you're looking for, that is there's just a knowingness. Your intuition is guiding you to it, even if it's not the path you followed before or the logical path. So things lined up relatively easily. We put an offer in, the builders. It's a new home, so the builders said yes. We submitted our earnest money. It goes into underwriting. Once it's in underwriting, and this is maybe a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, we find out from our lender that the amount that's required to bring to closing to close on the home is double what I thought it was going to be. Double. I'm not going to get into all the whys and the semantics for tonight because it's complex and it doesn't matter. The bottom line is I'm sitting here with a scenario where what I thought was going to be like a stretchy but so comfortable move is no longer an option. And in order to get us into the home that I feel committed to getting us into, I now have to be willing to stretch so far out of my comfort zone than what I'd originally planned that it felt wildly uncomfortable. And so I sent an email to my list about this afternoon because it's been such an interesting experience to now be in almost like an unintentional quantum leap where I have to quantum leap it to make this home work. Um, I wasn't intending, I certainly wasn't intending for it, but I know this is the home for my family and for my sons. And I am stretching in ways I haven't had to stretch before, at least not in terms of buying a home. And so over the past week and a half or so since we found this out, there's been a lot of ups and downs energetically. There's been periods where I was like, screw it, I'm walking away from it. I'm not willing to get that uncomfortable for a home. And I got into my fear-based mind. I got into my analytical mind, my monkey mind. And so here's also part of how you know whether you're following intuition and your heart, which will always guide you to the quantum leap, or whether you're following fear is how are you feeling? And this is so important when you are really going for your next level. I knew when I was in my heart about this whole process, even when the whole thing got turned on its head and I was suddenly asked to create way more money to bring to closing that I thought I was going to need to bring. When I was in my heart about it, there was a calm, quiet knowing of it's okay. This is still the right path. When I got into my head about it and I started looking at circumstances and I started saying, well, this makes no logical sense to do this because of X, Y, and Z. It's going to eat up way more cash than I planned on investing in this. And I got in my analytical brain and my monkey mind, I would feel fear. I went into moments of some panic. I went into moments of, like anxiety. What am I doing? This doesn't make any sense. And it was the exact same feeling state. It was the exact same scenario that I was in several years ago before my first real financial quantum leap, when I had decided to follow my heart, follow my intuition, invest half of what I had earned the whole previous year before into working with a mentor who I felt could bring me to that 7-figure level that I was wanting to achieve. But I didn't have the money sitting around. I had to stretch just to put the deposit on a credit card. And then I had no idea how I was going to pay for the rest of it. And it was the exact same scenario where my heart was guiding me to go in a certain direction. But logic and circumstances said, this is crazy. This doesn't make any sense. You're putting your family in jeopardy. And when I was in my fear-based brain, everything would have said, don't move forward on this. But when I was connected to my heart and my intuition and my internal guidance system, it was, no, you need to move forward on this, and the path is going to be revealed as you go. Exact same scenario has been happening this past time with the home. And by the way, let me know if you're here live. Give me a heart on Instagram or give me like a yes in the comments on Facebook or YouTube. Is this making sense? And are you tracking me? Because I feel like a lot of times you don't even know what a quantum leap is like unless you've experienced it. Because if you've experienced it, you know how stretchy and how uncomfortable it is. And that, as Steve Jobs said, thank you for the heart. As Steve Jobs said, you will only be able to connect the dots looking backwards, never looking forward. And it requires a great deal of faith in the process. So I've had to really manage and regulate my emotional state over the past week or so as I've navigated this. And frankly, even up until the past several days, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to move forward on this or not. I'm going to take a quick water break here because I was navigating and managing that emotional state. And as we were driving up on, was it Wednesday or Thursday? Thursday of this week. It was like 2-3 days ago. I still hadn't made a decision on the house. And I was like, well, I've got to make a decision because movers are coming on Friday to start moving stuff out. And I've got to decide to tell them where the heck they're going. So I was like, at least you've got to decide on this. You've got to choose which path you're going to go. And I knew either way I was going to be okay. But once we finally got on the road and Jason had flown down to like help us drive up to Maine and get the boys in the car to Maine, I did a meditation and I got in my heart and I asked myself some of the questions that I have my clients ask themselves. And this is what I want you to pay attention to. And you can ask yourself these questions if you're feeling conflicted about what direction to go in. And one of the questions was, if I had perfect faith that everything was always working out for me, what action would I take? Another question was, and I love this because this will help you decipher between, are you acting based in fear or are you acting based in intuition? And the question was, if I flipped a coin and one of the sides was me buying the house and the other side was me not buying the house, what side would I hope the coin landed on? And it was very, very clear. I would hope it landed on buying the house. And you could apply that to whatever it is. If you've got split energy about something going on right now, something you want to do, but you feel afraid to do it, you can use that exercise and it'll always tell you. The side you want it to land on is the side your intuition is guiding you to. Your intuition will never guide you in the wrong way. It won't. Check your receipts in life. This is so important. When you followed your intuition, even though it felt scary and illogical and stretchy and maybe a little bit dangerous or uncomfortable, what happened? Versus when you followed fear and when you held back because of fear, what happened? If you followed your intuition, I guarantee it, every single time it worked out in your favor. If you followed fear, you held back, you didn't take action because you were scared, it didn't work in your favor, or you stayed stuck, right? You stayed at the same place. It's how it works. So I followed the guidance from that and I said, no, we're moving forward on this house. Even if it means I have to stretch, even if it means I've got to get uncomfortable, I am following my guidance, my intuition, because it says move towards the house. And so called the realtor, called my lender. I was like, we're doing it. What do we need to do? Let's move forward. Boom, boom, boom. Things lined up. And here we are, and we are set to close tomorrow. So I say all of that to say, how do you know if you're in a quantum leap? There are key indicators that will tell you, and I'm going to be mindful of time because my battery on my computer is 12%. Okay, I'm going to tell you quick. How do you know if you're in a quantum leap? Number one, you are going to be uncomfortable. You are going to be massively uncomfortable. If your commitment is to comfort and certainty and safety, you're not in a quantum leap. All right. And there's no judgment on that, but that is what it is. Number two, you are, if you're in a quantum leap, it means you're going for what you actually want, not what you think you should settle for. So this really applies whether it's, I have people come to me and they're like, Elise, I want to invest in coaching with you, but finances don't work. So I'm just going to hold back and I'm going to do it when I'm ready or when finances make sense. That's not a quantum leap. When you're in a quantum leap, you are actually going for what you want, and you won't know the full how, but you'll be able to take the next step. And that next step can look like, okay, I've got enough for a down payment, or I've got enough for a deposit, or I can reach out to this resource. I can get a loan through this person. I can do this. I can do that. If you've got enough to make the full thing happen and you're not having to stretch yourself uncomfortably, you're not in a quantum leap. And again, that's okay, but you're going to keep getting more of the same results if that's how you're showing up versus actually getting that magnificent, like true manifestation of what you want. Does that make sense? Let me know. So that's a key factor. And then number three, again, is are you having to show up differently than how you normally would? It was comfortable for me to go into buying this house when I thought it was a certain way. And I didn't really have to stretch or push myself that much. When I found out what was really going to be required, it requires me getting very uncomfortable and it requires me stretching. But what's beautiful about that is even just in the energy of making that decision on Thursday and saying, no, this is happening, we're doing it, or Friday, I don't know, whatever day I made the decision, I have shown up as a different woman than I did even a few days before. Extra energy, extra focus, extra attention on my business, on my goals, on how I'm showing up, on my mindset. And that's part of what's beautiful about the quantum leap is not only are you going to get a next level result, but you're going to transform into a different person in the process because you're going to be required to. And that's why most people don't quantum leap, because they don't want to have to change and get uncomfortable. But the people who are willing to, if you are willing to realize that that you've got to show up differently to get a next level result. The only reason you don't have that next level result yet is you haven't been willing to stretch and get uncomfortable to a level where you've got to transform into a different person. But that's what creates the quantum leap is you change, you transform, you bring a different level of intention and energy and intensity to who you are, how you're showing up, what you're doing. And then from that place, the universe is going to meet you halfway, but you've got to show up differently. So it's so, so powerful. There's this, I remember when I went to my first and only at this point, Joe Dispenza retreat. And he said, the divine will always match your level of intention. And I think it's that way with the quantum leap as well. You're going to be met with your level of intention. Okay, I'm getting a low battery warning on my laptop. If you lose me on YouTube or Facebook, pop over on Instagram. I'm still over here. But I am going to try to wrap to, because I also want to share something special with you that I decided to do just as part of like my own quantum leap energy and something I want to offer you. So with all of that, this is it. So you can watch along on the journey here. Like it's been fun because I've shared on the flip side of my other quantum leap what happened. And again, you can connect the dots looking backwards. But right now, kind of being in the midst of it, I wanted to come on and share with you this energy and what's happening and where my mindset is, because I'm still having to have great faith in the process as I go. But that's part of the quantum leap is you got to be acting in faith. So it's so beautiful. What I felt inspired to do this afternoon too, just to like help you if you also want a quantum leap, I have a beautiful Create Your Quantum Leap course available on my website. It's elisearcher.com/quantum leap course. And I felt inspired to put it on sale for you. So now through, when am I doing it? Midnight Eastern time on Tuesday. So August 22nd at midnight Eastern. If you use the code Maine 2023, it's MAINE, because we're now in the state of Maine. Hello to the great state of Maine. Maine 2023. It's going to get you 22% off of that program. Whether you do the regular, there's also a VIP level that includes a private call with me. And it's a beautiful course. It's taken from a live event that I did this past January in Sedona, where I taught for 2 days straight about how to create a beautiful, powerful quantum leap in your life. And there were also a lot of people who said, I wanted to get in the room in Sedona, but I wasn't able to join you. Is there a way to access the recording of the event? This course is that event recorded, and it's so beautiful. You're going to see, I don't even know how many hours, but it's 2 days of live training on how to create a quantum leap. We talk about the mindset. We talk about the mechanics. You're going to witness live coaching from the members of our community who were there live on how they could get their quantum leap. The members of our community who were there in that event said it was transformational, changed their lives, and incredible quantum leaps came out of that event. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm ready for a quantum leap, I need some of that energy, I need some of that certainty, I'm feeling fear, I'm feeling discomfort, I'm feeling like I've been stuck, or like I've been, as I say sometimes, like putting my dreams on layaway. Oh, Penny, you're in the comments saying Sedona was amazing. Oh, I loved having you there. And it's been so beautiful to see you quantum leap since then. You're such a beautiful embodiment of this work. I love you so much. And I'm so grateful to be able to be on this journey with you. But if you've been feeling like you haven't been allowing yourself to play full out and go for that true quantum leap you want, whether it's you want to turn your annual income into your monthly income, you want to get a new home like we're doing, you want to launch your own business, this course I think is going to give you everything you need. Not that you need permission, but sometimes it's helpful to have someone who's there like, no, you can do it, and here's how you want to think about it, and here's why, and you're supported in the bigness of your vision. I think it's so important to have that support when you're going through the quantum leap yourself. And so again, elisearcher.com/quantum leap course, and that code Maine 2023 will get you, it'll get you 22% off through Tuesday at midnight Eastern. I want to just offer this as like, I'm in another quantum leap myself. If you want to come with me on this journey and you want to learn like how I did the first one and how I'm doing this one, then the course is a really beautiful way for you to be supported in that. You can DM me with questions on it, or if you need the link, shoot me a DM. Either way, I love you. I'm so just cheering you on, supporting you in you achieving your own quantum leap and whatever that looks like for you. This is something I say to my son, Jack, every night. I want you to remember that you can be and do and have anything you want in life, and that you're worthy of it. And let that belief propel you to your own quantum leap, whatever that looks like for you. So stay tuned. I'm going to be sharing behind the scenes of the journey here in Maine as we, like I said, we are closing on the house tomorrow. We're going to be moving in, getting settled in. I'll keep you posted on like everything that's happening. But this is a really beautiful opportunity where I get to practice some of what I preach in a way that I wasn't even anticipating or intending, in a bigger way than I was anticipating or intending right now. But it's beautiful, and I get to do it, and I'm grateful for it. So much love to you. Have a beautiful, if you're watching this live, have a beautiful rest of your night. Whenever you're watching this, sending you love and support, and I will see you real soon. Bye-bye.